Hello, and welcome to Spring Office Hours, Season 3, Episode 23, JDK and Kotlin with Pasha Finkelshteyn. My name is Dan Vega, Spring Developer Advocate at Broadcom, joined by my good friend and coworker, DaShaun. DaShaun, how you doing?
I'm having a wonderful day. It's a great time to be a Spring developer, and I'm really looking forward to today's show. I've been thinking about it for a while. I have tons of questions, and it's a great time. It's summer. It's beautiful outside. It's hot at the moment where I'm at, but I'm having a good day, and I think it's just starting to get better.
Yeah, today's going to be a fun one. We've invited a special guest on the show today. We were lucky enough to sit down and spend some time with him at Spring I/O in Barcelona. So that was really good catching up with you there. But with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Pasha Finkelshteyn. Pasha, how are you doing?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, folks, for having me. I am really grateful. It's a nice place. Watching your podcast for quite some time already. I know you have a huge fan base. Hello, fans. I mean, you all know these guys, but you don't know me, right? So probably it's time to introduce myself. I am Pasha. Thanks, Dan, and already introduced me, at least named me. I work for BellSoft as a developer advocate, and before that, I was a developer advocate for JetBrains, actually for Kotlin at JetBrains. Nice. You all, I hope, know JetBrains, but you probably use the IDE. Before that, I was a developer for a long time, 11 years, 12 years. I actually don't remember. It was Java, then Kotlin, and that's how I became a Kotlin developer advocate. But in the end, all these languages work on top of JDK. And, well, BellSoft is a major vendor of JDK, like fifth contributor by size, alongside with Oracle, Red Hat, and other amazing companies, which contributes its code to OpenJDK. We have our own distributions, but we will probably talk about it a little bit later.
Yep, for sure. So, again, thanks again for spending some time with us today. We're going to dive into all those things, everything from BellSoft, JDK, a couple other things, and then we'll get into Kotlin. For anyone joining us here in the live stream, I see we have a bunch of friends joining us. Please let us know where you're from, where you're joining us from. And remember that this is a chance for you to get your questions asked. So you get a leg up on everybody who's just listening to the replay or listening to the podcast. You are here live. This is your opportunity to ask some questions. We have Pasha here who is able to answer a whole bunch of questions on a whole bunch of different topics. So please get them in. And as DaShaun says, if you come to my house,
listen, when you come to my house for dinner, if you leave hungry, that's your fault. Here on the live stream, if you've got questions, ask them. It doesn't have to be just about Kotlin or the JDK. We are here to answer questions. We have a great community in the chat. Get your questions answered. Don't leave hungry.
All right, so let's start with, I want to start with BellSoft. You said you're a developer advocate there. Tell us a little bit about what you do there, what you guys kind of work, what do you work on? What are you out talking to people about? Because I saw you at Spring I/O. You guys had a beautiful booth there. What were you out talking to folks about?
Well, I was mostly asking questions, as a good developer advocate should do. Yes. I ask questions to understand what people do to make our product better. What we do. What is our product? We have two main products. They're JDK, which is called Liberica JDK, and Linux distribution, which is called Alpaquita Linux. It's a teeny tiny Linux comparable to in size with Alpine Linux, ever so slightly bigger, like hundreds of kilobytes or something like that. And we have glibc in our image if you need it. At least we have Alpaquita with glibc, and also we have support. So some companies might be interested in this. I'm a Linux person, I should admit. I'm a Linux as my operating system for 15 years, since Ubuntu 2009, I think. 2009.04 it was, or something like that. But also I'm a Java person, obviously, so kind of BellSoft integrates in it everything I like, Linux and Java.
Yeah, so one of the things, two quick things on what you just said. One is the Liberica JDK. Can you, so first off, this is the one that Spring officially recommends, correct? the Liberica JDK. And one thing that DaShaun and I always talk about is there are all these different flavors of JDK. Like if you use SDK man like us and you go SDK list Java, whoa, I'm just giving this huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
So what kind of sets Liberica apart, and like what do you look for when you're looking for a JDK? Like how do you choose one?
I think I as a developer, I look at a lot of things. First thing I look at is my operating system supported, and is my server operating system supported, which is an interesting question.
Yeah.
BellSoft actually introduced support for ARM32. I'm not sure you have a huge audience using ARM32, but DaShaun is DaShaun is the guy. Is the guy who uses Java, who runs Java on ARM32, and that's what BellSoft introduced, and not only introduced in their open distribution, which is called Liberica again, but in the upstream open JDK. So now you can have any Java and install, hopefully any Java, and install it on ARM32, which is just beautiful, I think. And it works the same way for all other, at least popular architectures, like ARM64 definitely, of course x86, and so on, and the list grows. Other thing I look at is support. Like, is there anything I can drop a letter, I don't know, write into a chat and get an answer if my JDK crashes? And BellSoft surprisingly supports a lot of Java versions, starting from 8, 11, 17, and 21. Yeah, I believe I'm correct. And also you can buy commercial support for 6 and 7. Hopefully you don't have such people among your audience.
I'm sure we do.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's huge. Folks, if you have a chance to move to at least 8, please do. It's just faster. If you can't, well, you can buy support from BellSoft. Other things. If for whatever reason people develop desktop applications in their Java, Liberica has built-in JavaFX.
Oh, nice.
And obviously, Swing is a canonical part of JDK, but JavaFX isn't anymore. There is OpenJFX, but yeah, Liberica has a distribution with built-in JavaFX.
That's really nice.
Web applets. Does anybody remember?
It was a thing. Like, we're here because of it. Like, a lot of us, like, it was a part of what we did. It was a technology that really opened the door to a lot of other technologies. So yeah, like, I know I probably don't want to be taking it to production today, but I'm thankful that we had it when we had it.
There are organizations, we know for sure that there are organizations outside who still use applets for whatever reasons, for their internal purposes. Yeah. I didn't see external applets for a long time because modern browsers don't support them. But internally, it still can be a thing for reasons. We also have this native image kit, which is downstream of GraalVM Open Source Edition. With a nice feature. We have Swing and JavaFX application built into native image, which is very interesting. Recently, I made this very simple experiment. And do you know PlantUML, folks?
Yes, we do. Because PlantUML, we have some really good integrations with that in one of our projects called Spring Modulith. So that's where I learned about PlantUML. True. And yes, like UML is still a thing. Lots of people use it. A lot of places start with UML. So yeah.
So there is an issue with the desktop version of PlantUML. Every time you want to build an image from your text description, for those folks who don't know, PlantUML allows you to convert a spatial notation of text to a picture, to a diagram, sequence diagram, flow diagram, whatever you like, whatever UML supports. So yeah. And you need to convert your text to an image, PNG or JPEG, whatever. And every time Java takes some small fraction of second to start up, and only then it starts to generate your image. With native image, you can work it around because there is no more huge Java runtime. It's all compiled in a single platform native binary. And so I have this downstream on PlantUML on my personal GitHub, that just works, I don't know, instantly. I don't even notice how it works. And yeah, it wouldn't work without Swing support, obviously, because Plant UML, for whatever reason, has Swing interface.
Before we go further, you mentioned ARM32 as one of the platforms. I have not just ARM devices here. I also have RISC-V. And I just realized just now, because I went to Liberica's website and I saw Liberica JDK for embedded systems, there is support for RISC-V, another platform that you might run workloads on. And to be honest, I have been seeing over the last couple of weeks, since last time we had dinner, I've been seeing more and more of this RISC-V popping up into my channels.
It's interesting. Okay, I should be honest here. I don't know much about RISC-V. I don't have any computer around me with RISC-V architecture.
It's another architecture.
I heard about it. It's kind of thing, but I never tried it, and I don't even know where can I try it.
It's
but
open.
ARM,
Yep, it's open, similar to like the ARM, but with ARM, you pay. There's a company that licenses that technology behind it, and you have some flexibility in the standard. RISC-V is completely open, so I can go out and I can build my own RISC-V chips without having to pay a licensing fee to any organization. So that's one of the big things. It's open, and I like
it's
open.
amazing. It's amazing.
So it makes the chips more affordable, and you're going to find those in more.
It kind of raises a valid question. What is the cost of this, like platform support? The cost is like a couple of days, because we release Liberica JDK 2-3 days later than upstream does it, because we have to build it for all platforms and actually all flavors of it. Because if you heard about things like CDS or Crack, they should be built into JDK, and we have all kinds of flavors of Liberica with Crack and without Crack, with CDS and without CDS. By the way, our blog post on CDS, Kate and mine, Kate's blog post on BellSoft blog was just a hit. I mean, it's liked everywhere, Twitter, LinkedIn. It brought a huge influx of traffic. So if you don't know what CDS is, then probably you should read it. And we'll put it into show notes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to actually
CDS
share it right now.
My favorite feature of the Spring Boot 3.3 line. It's the thing that I lean into the most, as our audience here probably knows. I want things faster. And the Spring team, along with the Java teams, have given us this capability to do things faster. So great question here is like, what is CDS?
Okay, that's actually a great question. Thank you for it, because now we have like 10 minutes to spend on explanation of CDS is, but I will try to be a little bit faster. So CDS is a feature from JDK, which stands for class data sharing. Class data sharing means that if you run several JVMs on one machine, they can all share the same classes, same precompiled set of classes. And you can imagine that if you have only one JDK installed, then all the classes are the same. You can actually compile them once and then load them from precompiled archive. And this compiled archive has an extension called JSA, I think. So it benefits you hugely if you run it for several JVMs, but I believe nobody does it these days, or everybody uses Docker. But still, if you have JDK with this CDS compiled and put into your Docker, then your JVM starts up a little bit faster. Not like native image faster, but it doesn't need to compile all the classes.
Yeah.
Which kind of reduces warm up or start time, whatever you prefer to call it, hugely, and also reduces the memory footprint, because you don't need to handle all the uncompiled classes in the memory.
And it's we've talked a lot about this on the show. A lot of the things going into Java and Spring are around runtime efficiency, taking these different workloads to production, and it's all about that trade-off, right? Like if the absolute, like, I need as much startup time reduced as I can possibly get, then you could probably go with like a native image, right?
Yeah.
I need a very small footprint, maybe a native image, but there is a cost there. Like, you have to like go through and make sure that you have hints registered for anything dynamic you're doing. You have to, it takes time to build these native images. So there's some costs there, but then there's other opportunities like CDS, like Crack, that can give you some of those benefits, maybe not as much, like you said, but without a lot of the cost. It's much easier to get that optimization done.
And speaking about Spring, Spring has its own support for CDS. And what it means is you can build a CDS archive for your own application, for your own Spring application. And it will also slightly improve the start time. Sebastian Delos made a beautiful talk on Spring IO. Probably we'll get back to it soon, but let me say it now. If you use CDS plus Spring AOT, then you cut like 2/3 of startup time in common scenarios. If you use Hibernate, it can be more tricky.
Yeah.
But usually it will be just a huge startup and huge cost saver, probably, I should say.
Yeah.
Because, sustainability is a huge topic these days.
Yes.
Your applications just become more sustainable.
That is the funny thing that, and I'm sure you both heard it, when we were at Spring IO, one of the things that kept on coming up around Java is its sustainability. The green, right? Java for a long time has been one of the most efficient languages to take to production. And now we've got this AI stuff happening. We have GPUs, we have all these other things that are happening. Yet Java is still the most efficient, one of the most efficient ways of going to production. And we continue to hear a lot of this. And these features, these upgrades to the JVM, the JDK, are things that are continuing to move Java forward to maintain its position as being a green language to run your workloads on.
Yeah, and I would I'll echo, go watch Sebastian's talk from Spring IO. It's on YouTube now. He mentioned some of the performance benefits in 3.3 and even some of the stuff he's kind of tinkering with as we move towards Spring Boot 3.4. I even saw some previews of like, wow, we could get some like even bigger performance gains out of that. So it's, as DaShaun said at the beginning of the show, it's an exciting time to be a Spring developer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the most rapid development of Spring I saw in years.
So the other thing, you talked about Spring including the ability to make these CDS archives. Also, with the build packs, you enable one flag, and then you get that. It does the training run. It generates the archive, and then it builds the build pack with that archive included. So you have this, not only this easy way of accessing these features, but you can take it to production. So,
and thank you for mentioning build packs. This is just a beautiful topic. Folks, if you don't know what build pack is, just type it quickly in the chat and we'll try to explain. Do you think we should do it now?
Here,
okay, so build pack.
Packs.io. Build packs.
Yeah. So build pack is a way to automatically build your software with one magical command, like pack, build, then several arguments into it. It recognizes by itself that it's a Spring application. It finds Liberica JDK, probably the latest version, or maybe LTS version of Liberica JDK, puts it in your Docker image, and then on top it builds all this nice layered Spring image, which line chart dependencies, snapshot dependencies, your own code, and so on. It is just a beautiful thing. I mean, you don't need to write a perfect Docker file anymore. And also, only today we have published our own build pack. We think that it's slightly optimized. When I say slightly, it's like 18 megabytes, 18 megabytes smaller. It's built on top of Alpaca Linux. I can probably share a link, but I will need a small second for it.
Or just tell me about it. This build pack coming from BellSoft. This is a build pack that is this a Paketo build pack? Where do I get it? Where do I find it?
So it's not like official build pack that you can use inside. How do I say it? You can use it with Paketo build packs.
Okay.
It's just not published as their official build pack for
Got it.
Java.
Okay.
And
Fantastic.
I can probably put a link here, and you can reshare it anywhere.
Absolutely. This is good to know. I'm a
So,
big fan
yeah,
of build
it's
packs.
like-
We like to say that friends don't let friends use Docker files. We like to use build packs because if I had a question or a situation recently where the teams, as they were going to production, they were required to build their own Docker file. And then the team that was taking it to production would take that Docker file and build it and then use it to go to production. But the thing that freaked me out is like, I don't have access to the production environment. Yet you're telling me to build this Docker image that's going to run in the production environment. I don't know what kind of sizing it's going to get, the scans. Oh, like, where do I get that information? If I've got to take a Docker file to production, I've got another thing to worry about that's taking away from my time building features.
Yeah, who's got to
That scares
maintain
me.
that Docker file
I do,
when
like,
things go
of
wrong?
course. If it's
And
in my
also the
repository,
quality
my
is
project, that scares me.
Yeah.
I mean, I
do.
like writing my Docker files, but let's be honest, I'm not a platform engineer. My quality is kind of unpredictable or predictably bad. Okay, I hope that I'm good. I hope that I'm good. I spent quite some time on learning this stuff, but you can never be sure until you are a professional, deeply integrated in this ecosystem. And build pack is a way to solve this problem. It kind of guarantees you stable quality and same size.
Yeah.
And
all the best features.
And Pasha, as you said, you spent time doing this. You kind of understand this, but most of the time we're asking developers to do this. What do you think they're doing? They're probably going off to Stack Overflow and saying,
Yeah,
let me copy and paste some Docker file in here and have no idea what it's doing.
These days, I think they ask ChatGPT, and probably they get results even worse than they would get from Stack Overflow, because the results that ChatGPT outputs are unpredictable too. They can be perfect, but they can be very, very mediocre, let's say.
And how do you update them?
It's 2 years old now, yeah.
If you've got hundreds of engineers that are going out to ChatGPT and giving you an answer, and it might be the best answer today, but then tomorrow, the best answer changes. How do you get those hundreds of engineers to upgrade, to change the images? That's the tough part. The hard part about hard parts.
It's always nice to have this BellSoft who stands behind their build packs, and they say that we know how Spring works. We helped folks with our CDS builds. We know how to build a correct build pack for you with all features required. We even have a flag to build a native image. It's, again, obviously, it won't work for any application, for all applications, but it worked for some of them. And for you to try, it's like a cost of adding one argument to a build. That's all. So
I just looked at the link that you shared, and I've been kind of deep into this build pack thing for multiple architectures for a while. And the first thing that jumped out from this page is muscle support, MUSL. This has been a question that has been asked of me since early 2022, right? Where people are, they want to squeeze out, especially for these native images, they want to squeeze out as much as possible from these images. And the muscle support it's a slightly different approach to the native images. And we've had the ability to use muscle with the Graal VM and with the native image kit. But now what I'm seeing here is it's included in the BellSoft Build Packs Builder.
One
muscle.
Argument away.
This is really exciting. So now already today, I've got 3 things that I'm taking away. This is one that is really, really exciting for you because I know it's going to deliver an even smaller native image. And
hopefully
the performance is another question. I don't know if the performance is same or equal or better. I haven't done that.
Nobody
analysis,
knows,
but I would love to.
It always depends on many factors,
right? But we can go and do the tests, right? When community says, I want a smaller image, give me muscle support. Well, fantastic. Now I can. This is exciting. So even if we do nothing else today, I'm excited to learn about this BellSoft build pack with muscle support. I have open issues where people have been asking for this. So this is exciting. I have something to follow up with. I got
what
some
is
homework
also
today.
interesting, there is there are slim images of everything, muscle image, glibc image, and so on, which just save you disk space for free. Well, disk space is not that important, you can say these days, but when you have these hundreds of pods on Kubernetes, it's suddenly gigabytes of space, and you probably don't want to waste them for nothing. And if you don't need some specific capabilities like, I don't know, debugging, I think nobody debugs JDK inside Kubernetes, then you probably you can get out with slim versions of our JDK.
I've got so many things I'm digging into. I'm going in and I'm looking like this is exciting.
Yeah. So what I did, I went through the whole this documentation several days ago, maybe Friday, I don't remember, and I spent the whole day experimenting. Do these arguments really work together? They actually work together, which is mind-blowing.
This is fantastic. My question before I go in and dig in, are the Paketo or the BellSoft build packs, is that builder multi-architecture as well?
Multi what?
Multi-architecture, will that support
Yes, of course.
x64 and x86?
Well, I think they should be, because again, our main feature is we support multiple architectures. Well, one of main features. I honestly didn't try it on ARM. No, I tried. It works on my Mac.
We're gonna go take it for a spin.
At least it works on M2 and on my Linux ARM 64. Oh, sorry, AMD 64.
Cool.
This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I know what DaShaun's doing the rest of the day.
This is true. This is true. But there's more, right? There's more things. One of the questions that we get asked is like, which JDK do you use? Why should we use that one? When you've got a bunch of different options on the menu, how do you figure out which one to use?
Yeah, so we started answering this question. Architecture, support, right? But it's always about what works for you, obviously. I mean, your organization probably has its own financial considerations.
Yeah.
And who am I to tell you what you should use? I say what I use. I use Liberica, and I used Liberica long before I joined BellSoft, just because they have everything and they have this support. They answer technical questions in chat right on the site, which is not something you can usually find from other vendors, I think. Also, they support a lot of different JDKs, which is sometimes important. Sometimes there is just older, or let's say mature software around, which I have to launch somehow, and I cannot do it on an unsupported JDK. If some vendor supports only Java 21, it's their right. It means that their clients live on this Java 21, but I need to run something on Java 11. Sorry, because it was written 5 or 10 or whatever years ago. I don't have much of a choice, right?
Right.
Java FE supported, I said, well, it's minor. I honestly, I don't create desktop software. I'm a backend developer for many years, and I only created like a couple of pieces in Java FX. But for some, it's also a reason. What else is there?
I'm sorry, I have another question that has just come to my head, where I work with a lot of customers, and when they're like Spring customers, Liberica is the one that's included with their Spring support. But I have another question for you. The Liberica has Java 8, has a release of Java 8. Is that Java 8 supported as well?
Yeah, Java 8 is of course supported. We still have this support LTS for Java 8. And if you look at Oracle side, they have Java 8 U200 something, and we have 400 something, which means we updated it just yet, like a month ago or so. Which sounds crazy. We patched some security vulnerabilities and so on. Also, we have this paid thing called Performance Edition. It's an edition of Java 8 with features backported from Java 17 and Java 21. And it means that if for whatever reason you cannot move from Java 8 to Java 17, and also it means that you cannot move from Spring 2 to Spring 3, if I remember correctly, right?
Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3. Yes.
Yeah. So you can't migrate to Spring 3. At least you can have some performance for reasonable amount of money, because we backport some features for garbage collector, which is G1. We backport some other JDK features. We do not backport language features. You won't get records in Java 8 on it, and we believe it doesn't make any sense to do it. But we backport JDK features. So regarding language you use on your Java 8 with your Spring, it might be Kotlin or it can be Java, you will still have performance boost and you still have smaller memory footprint.
That is nice. That is like a parachute if you got to jump out of a plane. But if you don't have to jump out of a plane, don't jump out of a plane. That's my advice for you today.
But here's
By the
the
way,
other thing.
Spring does the same thing. They have support for Spring 2, which, well, if you cannot migrate, you have to stick. At least you can buy support and get some patches and so
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, well, it just makes sense.
Yep.
It would be responsible to abandon all these businesses who cannot move right now.
I think everybody in this business is always trying to help customers get upgraded to the latest and greatest. But we realize, like, especially in large organizations, it's not that easy. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's great that
year after year, the share of Java 8 only started dropping. It was huge couple years ago. Huge. Share of Java 11 is still huge. We do understand it.
Yeah, we saw at the Spring I/O on some of the numbers that came out of the State of Survey Spring. It's the Spring State of Survey results. JDK 17 was pretty up there.
But
that was really good to see.
My thing with this survey is I think that the selection is very biased. Like a lot of people we talked to on the booth said that they already use Java 21. If you go to an event like KubeCon, they say that like we have 11. We have 11.
Yeah.
In Kubernetes, they have Java 11 in Kubernetes. It doesn't even support all these container features like resource limits and so on.
Yeah.
I believe it doesn't, because they were supported in Java 14, I think.
This is awesome. I have a question. If I want to find out more about the Performance Edition, and here's why I ask, I oftentimes talk about the money that companies can save by upgrading from Java 8 to Java 21 and by upgrading from Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3. But if I have this ability, so political, there's some other reason why I can't upgrade to Spring Boot 3, but I still want to like save money. Where do I find out more about this Performance Edition? Because if I've got an opportunity for my Java 8
Google BellSoft, Java Performance Edition.
That's what I want.
And it should pop out as yes. Of course, it's the first result. And actually, if you care about prices, then pricing is open, which is unusual for this kind of things.
Because then I can just make a decision, right? And this isn't for everybody in this show, but there are different levels of your responsibility in what you're taking to production as a Spring developer, as a Java developer. And what I'm saying here is, for some people, the amount of money that you're paying or saving or making in production matters. And if you've got an option to go and make more money by saving some money, by spending some money to save some money, then maybe it's worth taking a look at. So this is just another option.
It's a simplish accounting job. Like you have to count your expenses to migrate. You have to count your costs to buy Performance Edition. That's all. You just compare them and then you move along with your decision, right?
Fantastic. So let me ask you this question about your experiences, specifically with this Performance Edition. How is this a big change, or is this a drop-in replacement?
No, it's a drop-in replacement. Like you just use it instead of your Java 8, and we guarantee the compatibility. If it's amazing. For whatever reason incompatible, it means that we created a bug. You write to our support, and we fix it as soon as we can.
Awesome.
This is good news.
All right.
I'm trying to make a good job, to do a good job.
Cool. I think I want, if we're kind of good on this topic, I think I want to change directions here.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk to Pasha about today was Kotlin. And I guess before we get into Kotlin itself, I heard a little bit of history with you at the beginning of the show. You said you were a Java developer, then you got into Kotlin, which kind of led you into a developer advocate role at JetBrains. Take me through that. What got you started? You're a Java developer. You start hearing about this Kotlin thing. What kind of got you intrigued about it and started, writing some code in Kotlin?
Okay, first thing I should say, I'm not a real developer. Like, I have a huge imposter syndrome because I don't have any technical education, not computer science, not everything.
I am too. I mean, I think there's a very small percentage of people out there who would just walk around knowing they're the greatest developers ever. The rest of us,
that definitely, but at least they knew that they know some programming stuff. So I have masters in psychology. I am very, very far away from development. At least I was far away from development, but I was really hungry, really. So my friend called me to try writing some code, and I told him, dude, I do not know how to do this. And he said, you look like a smart guy, let's try. It was year 2009. And I was hooked up on Java. But at some point in time, Java slightly slowed down its development. Actually, not slightly. We were expecting lambdas in Java 7.
Java 8, yeah. And
they only appeared in Java 8, and it was a huge time gap. Yep. So I started thinking out like different flavors, diverse languages, let's call them, namely Scala 2. And Scala 2 was interesting but complicated. I was I wasn't mature enough to experiment with Scala. I didn't understand many concepts, and I still find some concepts hard to comprehend fully. Macros, implicits, and so on. But one day I saw the presentation by Andrei Brislav, who said, we tried to use Scala internally for development at JetBrains, but it was way too hard, and Java just didn't fit our requirements. That's why we introduced new language. And I started trying Kotlin in maybe 2013, 2 years after the initial development, not in production, only for myself. And then
you weren't with JetBrains yet, right? This was
I wasn't with JetBrains. It was some smaller company.
Okay.
It wasn't actually even like technical company. They had their small internal development.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, again. That was a cool thing because I was an architect those days, and I could make some minor decisions. And I said, let's try to write this one small service. It was also the beginning of microservices, Spring Cloud, and so on. So I was using 2 unstable technologies in production at once, Spring Cloud and pre-release Kotlin. They both were released in a year or so. So I moved to stable versions. What caught me, it was just so simple. It was so readable, and there were no boilerplate and this null safety by default. I do remember the time when they were designing null safety, and it changed how it worked. First, they put some annotations on top of the whole JDK, and you had to use them because they had to know, can this function return null or not, and so on. It was a dead end, obviously, because you cannot support all the libraries out there. And then they introduced these platform types, which are nullable and not nullable at the same time, which is still a, nice trade-off, let's put it this way. It's not a perfect solution as we would like to see it, because we would like to have absolutely error-prone code, and it's impossible when you work with other language.
Yeah, and I think I had a very similar path. Like, I started off in Java, then I went off into the world of building dynamic web applications in other languages. And I think what kind of brought me back was Groovy, because Groovy had a similar sense for me. Like, when we were building all these big XML blocks or SOAP services, Groovy gave us a builder to like quickly build these out, where in Java it was very ugly and very verbose to do that kind of thing.
Groovy was amazing. I loved Groovy actually.
Yeah.
And I even won some things from Baruch because he did this Groovy puzzlers, and I knew I knew Groovy good enough to win stuff, T-shirts, yo-yos, whatever. It was very nice. But Groovy had this.
Those.
Groovy wasn't really supported in IDs. They tried, but in blocks with dynamic code, it wasn't really supported because you could. Do you remember you could query your XML just by names of fields like x.y.z, and it obviously it can't be compiled. To compile it, you should validate types in XML, and you cannot. So Groovy did all the magic under the hood, and it was the reason why it wasn't really supported by IDE. And here Kotlin, Andrei Breslav gave this beautiful talk that the Kotlin is built on good ideas from different languages. He's very honest about it again.
I think most languages, they have a well-defined set of features they want to kind of put into a language, but most languages do gather inspiration from other languages, other frameworks. You have to. I mean, you have to what are people excited about using? So you don't have to put everything into that bucket, but if you can pull some of your favorite features from different languages, that's going to lead to a really good language, I think.
Yeah, so Spring is inspired by Java EE in a way, but also it introduced a whole class of new features that were not and still are not there. I'm not even sure if they have event bus in Java EE. I'm not sure. Probably they do. I just don't know. Not my thing. But it was, but they're singletons. They were stateful by default. So if you declare something as a singleton, it's stateful. And also all the access to all the methods is synchronized, which is crazy when you think how different it is to Spring. And I mean, Spring RMI, it was such a beautiful concept for the time. Well, it was 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I don't remember. Long ago when I used Spring RMI, but it was amazing. It was just a beautiful interface. It was better than Corba for sure, and maybe I would argue in some ways it was even better than gRPC today. gRPC, right.
All right,
but what I actually like, sorry,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so what I really like in Kotlin, another thing I like in Kotlin is DSLs. You can build these domain-specific languages for everything. And the example that really hooked me was HTML, because I hate HTML. It's very simple to make a mistake there. And you cannot be sure that all the tags are closed and so on, and it will render incorrectly. And Kotlin just eliminates this issue. I have this small example of library application written in Ktor, which is Kotlin web framework.
Right.
And HTMX. And do you know HTMX?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Thomas,
HTMX is
if we say it 3 times, Thomas is going to show up. He's here. He's in the chat. He said hello earlier. So yes, we're big fans of HTMX.
Hi. So HTMX, and this HTMX written is in Kotlin X HTML, which is a domain-specific language for HTML and Kotlin. It just fits so nicely in the server. It's just one DSL inside another without any bounds, any visible bounds. Here we have some part of DSL, and here we have another. And also there were an example in my talk on Spring IO. It's already published. We can probably share it a little bit later. There is bean configuration DSL in Spring. Nobody knows it. It's beautiful. And also there is a Spring security configuration DSL in Spring. And you can merge them together. You can define your whole security in this DSL inside your bean definition DSL. And in my opinion, it's so much beautiful than something and, which is immediately killed by auto format in your IDE. You should put some comments on there.
I hear the excitement as you're kind of describing that, because I went through that same phase when I got into Groovy, building your own DSLs. We had markup language and Groovy templates that were all HTML, and that kind of what really got me hooked. 2 things I want to pick out of there. a lot of people always like want to join these large companies, the FANGs of the world. It's like, this is where I want to be. But one thing I took out of your story there is like, there's a real advantage of working for smaller companies. You, as an architect, had choices over technologies that you were going to use. You were able to introduce Kotlin into the code base. This doesn't happen at large companies. You're mostly stuck with whatever is there, right? So
yeah, I have all kinds of experience. I worked at huge financial organizations and also in very small startups. And I should say, BellSoft is also kind of small startup, even compared to JetBrains. JetBrains is 2,500 people.
wow, yeah.
BellSoft is under 100. I can know everybody there. It is just amazing. I really recommend trying different things if you have this opportunity. Or if you've already found your perfect spot, you definitely don't need to change it for anything.
For sure.
But generally, experimenting may be a nice idea.
Yep. All right, and I'll get to the weeds of Kotlin in just a second. But one other thing I took out of that was you were just a developer at a company who really was intrigued by Kotlin, got into it, started using it, and then you became a developer advocate for JetBrains. How did that happen?
It's an interesting question. Never answered like anything like that before. Here is the honest answer. So I gave multiple talks on Kotlin. I think one of managers at JetBrains noticed me. I wasn't developer advocate. I was just a regular developer at those times. But one of JetBrains managers noticed me, and I was visible in the Java community. And those days, JetBrains had a huge community in Russia, and I was in Russia too. And yeah, so it somehow worked. They one of the managers came to our company to make a small interview, not like job interview, customer dev interview.
Yeah.
And we just felt this chemistry, and he said,
"That's awesome.
Okay, do you want to join JetBrains?" And I said, it was actually my dream, like for 4 years. I just didn't do anything for it.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's not completely true. I applied several times to different positions at JetBrains, but for different reasons it didn't work. But then he said, let's try to do it in my team. And I joined his team. And then I joined JetBrains as a developer. And then multiple people inside JetBrains at the same time told me, Pasha, it seems like you have this chattiness. You might be a good developer advocate. Do you want to try? And I say, of course, let's try. I mean, it was my goal for several years. Now I can really try, and now it just works.
Yeah, and I apologize. I kind of teed you up on this because I knew where this question was going to lead us. But it's something that I try to stress to everyone. Like, follow your passions. I often tell people at talks, like, you don't need permission to advocate for the things that you're passionate about. Absolutely. Because you never know where it's going to lead. You don't have to like go out and give a talk about Kotlin because you eventually want to work for JetBrains. You went out and gave a talk about Kotlin because it was something you were interested in. And so follow that. Be passionate about those things. Go talk about them. Do a video on them because you never know where that's going to lead in your career.
Anyways, when you do things you like, you become more happy. You become happier, which is a good thing anyways. Even if you don't change your, I don't know, title, your company, you will be slightly happy, and that's amazing.
Yep. No, completely agree.
Oh, we have an interesting question in chat about Kotlin replacing Java.
All right, let's go there. Sorry, DaShaun.
Do we still have time? Or?
Yeah, take it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, my point of view, no, it won't, as Java didn't replace Cabal. And Cabal developers are extremely well paid. They're rich people. Nobody likes writing code in Cabal anymore. It's a completely different question. IBM has free courses to teach people Cabal, and they somehow work. I think it will happen in 20 or 30 years to Java too. I'm not sure if the Kotlin is this next language. Probably not. Probably it's not as paradigm shifting as Java was at these days. I think Kotlin can make a nice competition to Java. And it does. You can actually read in their JEPs, which is Java
JDK enhancement proposal.
GP, that they steal features from Kotlin. No, okay, not steal. They are being influenced by features from Kotlin, and they directly reference Kotlin. Like in Kotlin, this feature has this syntax. Do we want to have something like that? And it tells me something. Also, we can see that Java started moving quicker in its development. They implement features. They implemented Loom. And sometimes I get this question, will Loom kill Java coroutines? And I say no. Roman Yelizarov has a beautiful talk about it. And he says that Kotlin will rebuild coroutines on top of virtual threads, and it will be even better than it was before. By the way, coroutines are like first-class citizens in Spring also. You can use them everywhere.
Yep. Okay, cool. Let me back up. So for those people that might be on my same level, I kind of put something out at the end of last year. I said, should I learn Kotlin next year? I got like 80% of people said, yes, you need to learn it. So it's on my list. I am by contract of a Twitter poll. I have to this year. But I keep coming back to like prioritizing things that I need to learn. And I keep coming back to Kotlin and going, why do I need to learn this? Like we talked about, I absolutely understand the argument 10 years ago when I was looking at Groovy. It just made a lot of sense then. Today, where Java is, where the JDK is moving every 6 months, we're getting all these new features. If I wanted to sit down and learn Kotlin today, give me a couple reasons why I should give it a look. Why, as a Spring developer, as somebody who's building Spring MVC applications, what are some good use cases? Like, why should I pay attention to Kotlin?
May I ask a question first?
Yes.
Yes.
What do you call learning a language?
That's a good question.
So for me, I think so that question is different for everyone. For me, I think specifically why I want to learn it is to be able to demo some exciting features of Kotlin and Spring together. I do a lot of demos of Spring, but I know there's a large Kotlin base out there, and every kind of demo that I do is Java, Maven, and the latest version of the JDK. And I'd like to branch out and do different, talks and demos in Gradle, different talks with Kotlin, just to like show that that base that, hey, the things that you're doing, you can do with that as well.
So for you, learning a language is learning on a level enough to be able to make beautiful demos of this with this language.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right?
and learning on my part is actually learning twice, right? Learning it to be able to do it myself, and then learning it enough to like teach it back to somebody else. That's always the challenge in my role and our roles, right?
Okay, now I think I have several answers to a question. Thank you for your answer. It was very, very nice. So first of all, learning the language itself, like learning a syntax, won't be hard for you because Kotlin doesn't invent almost anything new. You know that what val keyword means. You probably will have to learn extension functions, which is just a nice thing, and Spring itself utilizes them everywhere in Kotlin code. It's a way to add some functionality or some syntactic sugar on top of an existing functionality. And this is one of the features I adore, and I adore it from the first day. Yeah, I have this example in my talk from Spring.io again. So there is a JDBC template. And when you query something with JDBC template, you do it this way. You put a query as a first argument. Then you put mapper as a second argument, right? And then you put all the arguments of the query as a third argument because it's variable argument, right?
Yep.
So there is an issue there. What is my mapper is huge? What is my mapper is 20 lines of code? I won't be able to visually match arguments of the query with query itself to understand what goes where. In Kotlin, it's not an issue because in Kotlin, variable arguments can be in the second argument. And in Kotlin, when you do query, you can pass query, then all the arguments, and then mapper. And also the mapper will be outside of parentheses. It will be in curly braces after the parentheses, which also makes it slightly more readable. It's two features in one: receiver arguments, and extension functions. And also third feature is you can have variable arguments in the middle of the signature. What else? Suspend functions. I love the idea of reactive programming. It's very powerful, extremely powerful, but it has its cost. You need to be able to think in this map-let-map paradigm, and you need to be able to write your whole code base in this style, or like half
all
of
or
your
nothing.
code base.
It's not, you don't split it up.
Yeah. So suspend function, but they have huge benefit. They support back pressure. So your server does not produce more than your client can consume, right? So suspend functions in Spring work on top of this reactive pattern, but without these functional paradigms. You write your simple imperative code, but it calls async functions under the hood. It's not as reactive. I should admit it. I'm not sure if it has the same level of reactivity because I'm not sure about back pressure. Given the fact that it works on top of reactive, probably it does, but I need to test and I can't.
That would be interesting because then we can use virtual threads and we can use this feature for the back pressure. And I would see a whole lot of gains there and still be able to write that imperative code.
Yes. And it will be imperative code. Currently coroutines still do not work on top of virtual threads.
Okay.
But they're almost as efficient, we think. Well, JetBrains thinks. But obviously, since it's not implemented on the JDK level, it has some performance for penalties, but they're very small. And the fourth feature, fifth feature project probably, is null safety. Ability to write your own null safe code is a killer, I think. I mean, it's just amazing. It's how we should have been writing our code for years. If this thing is not nullable, why can I assign null to it in Java? It doesn't have to be this way.
How about optionals?
Yeah, but so Kotlin just fixes it, and cost of this fix is nothing. Also, you get slightly more expressive language when you come to tests, for example.
I could see that. Yep. Being, as programmers, everybody thinks we write code all the time, but I mean, the ability to read code is exponentially more important than writing code. So concise code is a big thing of mine. And that's why everybody points to Java and says Java's verbose. And it's like, yeah, if you wrote Java like we did 20 years ago, it is verbose, but there are new ways to do things.
Andrei Vislav explicitly says that code should not be concise. It's not the goal. Your code should be maintainable, and therefore it should be readable. And Kotlin was created with this idea in mind.
You mentioned coroutines. So coroutines were there for a while. That was like a really big reason to move to Kotlin. I think that was a huge feature. And then you said virtual threads came. That offered us another way to kind of address the scalability issue, right? Like you can move to reactive, but that's all or nothing. Or you can throw more hardware at it, whether it's vertically or horizontally. Now we have this other kind of paradigm is just to solve the scalability issue. But you said coroutines are not going to go away because of something like virtual threads. Can you, for somebody who doesn't know what coroutines do in Kotlin, just at a high level, can you tell me why they aren't going away? Like, what do they do?
Let's quickly explain what coroutines are. First.
Yeah.
Coroutines are functions. They're suspend functions, and what means your function execution can be suspended at some points, not random point, obviously, but some points, which we call suspend points. And then they can continue their execution. So it is the idea of complete execution.
Before you go any further, that sounds a lot to me like how virtual threads work, right?
Yes.
If I'm doing a blocking operation and it's talking to a database, it basically suspends itself, goes away. Well, virtual threads will just go away because they're lightweight. And then it knows later on that, hey, this is a task that needs to be resumed.
Absolutely.
So
idea is perfectly the same.
Okay.
The mechanics is slightly different inside because for virtual threads, it's implemented inside JDK. It's some complex machinery. For Kotlin, it's implemented in a different way. It's some
Okay.
state machine, and sometimes scheduler built into the Kotlin runtime checks if we reached some point in the state machine. If yes, then we continue the execution. Otherwise, we suspend this function further. But generally, it's the same. What I don't like about virtual threads, nobody likes to write this code like new thread or new virtual thread. And also, nobody likes to submit sequential jobs to a thread pool. So we can create this virtual thread pool, right? So let's imagine we need to obtain 2 ints from different services and then sum them up. Wow. Okay, whatever.
That's a celebration.
Then we need to add them up and return a result to a customer. How will we do it in our virtual thread pool? We'll submit to task. No, it won't work. Or should we join them? No, we should wait for them explicitly. It's not that simple. In Kotlin,
I think that's what structured concurrency is going to fix at some point. But again, it's in a third preview going into the next JDK. So.
Yes, it will. But again, structured concurrency is Java is very reactive-like. I would even argue they were inspired by how reactive is introduced in Project Reactor, because they look very alike. In Kotlin, it's completely different. In Kotlin, it will be like a usual call. Val x equals call this service, while y equals call this service, and then return x plus y. It doesn't look like a magic code. It doesn't look like a code which is hard to understand, comprehend. You should know a lot of concepts about it. No, because just your function is marked as suspend. That's all.
Gotcha. And just for anybody out there who's kind of new to Spring and virtual thread, I agree. I don't want to write a lot of like thread.new virtual thread anywhere. So if you turn this on in Spring Boot 3.2 and above, there's a property to switch this on. Anywhere that we've kind of enabled that, like in a controller method, you don't have to write that. We're just using virtual threads automatically, but I agree. Cool. So
this comment
sounds...
is definitely not for Dan or myself. Icon, thank you for that. But Pasha, I think this is all you. Somebody is commenting on loving the hair, which Dan and I have none of. So
thank you.
I got a little left.
We're glad to have that hair here.
Yeah, you both are beautiful. I'm just too shy to shave them.
So I think maybe correct me if I'm wrong. We'll kind of wrap this up, but I think there is no like there's no like, these are like the really big features you got to use. I think for what it sounds like, it's a lot what I got into Groovy for is like these little things that like start adding up to just make me a happier developer.
Yes.
Would that sum it up?
Yeah, I would say absolutely, because there is nothing you can't implement with C++ or even plain C. You just don't like it.
Right.
You won't like it. In Kotlin, you will like it, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any kind of tips for learning Kotlin? Is there like a book or a website or tutorial?
Yeah, there is a book, Kotlin in Action. It's very new. If you prefer to start learning from theory, I am more learn by mistake kind of person. So I like So there is a thing called Kotlin koans. It's small exercises in Kotlin. You implement them, and you just automatically become better in Kotlin, and that's how I learned.
Cool. All right, DaShaun, we got any questions here?
We do have some questions. We have this one asking, is there a way for me to initialize my database using Liquibase and Spring Boot Reactive? I don't find any documentation on that. Those two things, Liquibase and the reactive part, those are not really dependent. If you want to use Liquibase, you can use Liquibase, and the answer, the documentation that you are looking for, which you can now search for, going to spring.io, go to the Spring Boot project, and now in the reference documentation, there is a search, and you will find this link that I have just shared.
Like for R2DBC, right? It should work with that. I haven't done that. I don't do a lot of reactive on the Spring side, so Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Doug.
So you have that. And that's the cool thing here is like, right, we have questions. We weren't able to, we didn't want to stop the conversation, but you put your questions in the chat and we will get to those.
Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go here. What's new in Kotlin version 2.0.0?
Intentionally, there are no many changes because it was a major release. It's a new compiler architecture, and developers were really focused on not breaking developers' experience. All your programs should work and so on. And this new compiler architecture opens gates to allow introducing new features in Kotlin. My favorite future feature is union types. Thing I'm really waiting for many years. It's amazing. It's implemented just beautifully in TypeScript. I would be happy to see it in Kotlin too.
I think one more that I saw, I was trying to think of like something that I heard a lot of people talking about over the last year with Kotlin. Was it Kotlin for server side? Was that like a big feature that was coming? If it is, do you know much about it?
Kotlin for server side is there all the time. It was
all the time.
The first thing that probably Kotlin WASM, but I'm not sure if Kotlin WASM is already stable. Just not sure.
Oh, multi-platform. That's what I was.
Yes, Kotlin multi-platform is under development for quite some time, and maybe they have released. Sorry, I'm just a backend engineer, so for me, all the most important things happen on backend. But obviously, Kotlin platform is a very interesting beast.
Yeah, because I think one of the reasons. I won't say forever. One of the reasons, like I heard, like Kotlin was great too, was being able to use it to write Android applications. And I have no hate towards Android. I'm just not an Android person. Like I use Apple for everything. I'm in that ecosystem. So I'm not writing Android applications. But now I do see that like multi-platform will let you, hey, I want to write this app for both the server and then for like an iOS and an Android device. And that seems really cool.
You can write an app in Kotlin for iOS, which is nice. Probably for you, learning Kotlin will be easier than learning Swift, for example.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome. So that gives me like a real tangible use case, like something I would want to do with it.
Okay.
And I need that. Like I can't learn something if it's just like learn this thing to learn this thing. Like I need like a reason to learn something. So
in your case, your reason is 27% of your customers use Kotlin. So you probably should be able to speak in one language with them.
That's true. I'll just say, hey, put the arguments and the types backwards and Kotlin.
Yeah.
And we use fun and not function, right? That's what.
What? Sorry?
Fun instead of function?
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
Kotlin is always fun.
I'm a Kotlin developer now, folks.
Boom. There it is. We did it. Check that box. It's 2024 and we have done it. We've checked the box. Congratulations, Dan. There's one more question that just came up in the chat that I want to address because I'm excited about this stuff. The question is, I've been assigned to create an SBOM for our Spring Boot project. What steps should I take? Where do I begin? Guess what? You're not the only one. The Spring team has this thing where when our community is doing a bunch of the same things over and over and they're trying to tackle the same problem over and over in a bunch of ways, the Spring team says, hey, how about we just do that for you? And guess what? They've done it. With Spring Boot 3.3, they did that. They took the pain away of creating SBOMs and they included it in the actuator with Spring Boot 3.3. So your steps, where should you begin? Begin by upgrading to Spring Boot 3.3. And then I posted the blog here. In the actuator, you get an SBOM endpoint. So your application /actuator /SBOM will give you a full SBOM in not just one, but two different formats, both the Cyclone DX and the other one. They're both there. So that's what you should do. That was a great question. I feel like that was kind of a softball question, but if you need a software bill of materials for your Spring Boot project, done. Upgrade to Spring Boot 3.3.1, which came out last Thursday, and it's there for you. It's already ready already.
Actually, Josh Long published a video with explanation what SBOM is for all the folks, including me, who doesn't know what SBOM is. By the way, Liberica JDK also has SBOM, and Liberica Linux also has SBOM, which are reasons for some companies around. I still don't know what they are, but Josh published an amazing video
Yeah.
And probably you want to watch it.
Well, now with what you get in the build pack, with what you get from Spring in the SBOM actuator endpoint, you get all of your dependencies all the way down, the dependencies of your dependencies. But then if you put it into a build pack, that build pack also has its SBOM. All of the things that are included in that build pack, you get as well. So you're starting to get this maturity level of the metadata of the things that you're taking to production that you just don't get with Docker files.
And actually, when you use our build packs, you have SBOMs for our things too
in the build
inside
pack,
the build pack.
Yep. Which is wonderful. So now you can have this, not just your Spring application, but also the container that you're taking to production. So yeah, that's a better answer, Masha. You can not just do it for your Spring application, but you can do it for the container that's running your application in production if you're using cloud native build packs.
I think the thing that we learned today, above everything else, is it's a great time to be a Java and a Spring developer. I mean, come on.
And Kotlin. and Kotlin.
Yeah. Kotlin runs on the JVM. So
give me a second.
Oh, there we go.
Look at the heart.
Look
Oh, look at that. Now there's new side mission unlocked. I need to figure out how to do that. That was
I will tell you after the stream.
Deal. This has been wonderful. We are so over time. Look at that.
No.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We are so over time, but totally worth it.
Yeah.
I would do it again.
We will.
Tomorrow. I'm ready tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I got to get ready to go visit DaShaun in KC for KCDC this week.
Pasha, are you coming to KCDC?
KCDC.
Are you coming to KCDC?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe next year. I'll point you in the right direction. It is a wonderful conference held here in Kansas City, and that's going on this week. So
and we're getting some barbecue.
I'll be there. Yeah, it's
I'm too far away, but
yeah.
I'm in Germany, so for me, Kansas City is slightly far away.
Yeah, not in the Midwest. Germany is not in the
Midwest. But I will be in the US on Java MLS in the beginning of August.
Oh, nice. We'll be in Vegas in August for Spring One. So.
You should visit Spring One. Wait, it's online. Everybody can visit.
Everybody can visit. Thank you.
Yes.
Everybody.
You don't need to drive to Vegas all the way down.
We do though.
Well, they do.
Pasha, I will get some things in the show notes for today's episode when I go ahead and post the podcast tomorrow. But just for anybody out there who wants to stay in touch with you and find out all things Pasha, where can they look?
So it's probably Twitter and LinkedIn as everybody. I have my Twitter handle right here. And my LinkedIn, we can publish it somewhere in show notes.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I'll make sure I get those out. So
you can find me by Pasha Finkelshteyn over the whole internet because I'm the only Pasha Finkelshteyn there.
All right, and then we'll include that one blog post for CDS on the BellSoft blog. But I was looking at the BellSoft blog. If you have not been there, go check it out. There's a lot of really interesting blog posts there and a lot of content around Spring. So check that out. And
Catherine posted one on best JDK for Spring developers.
Yeah, and I saw Catherine post one on Spring Modular the other day, so that was really cool. So some great content over there.
It was not together, but
yeah. All right, there you go. We'll make sure we get those in the show notes. Again, Pasha, we got to meet in Barcelona. We had a great dinner. It was awesome talking to you. I'm really glad that we were able to get you back get you on the show. Thanks for taking some time, especially in your time zone, which I know is now a little later. So we appreciate you taking some time. All right,
thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. With that, we'll call this one a wrap, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.